Kia ora everybody and welcome to a new video from NZ Pocket Guide. Today I'm going to take you to the heart of the North Island of New Zealand and New Zealand's largest lake. It's Lake Taupo. Here are my best tips for you to make the most out of your stay there. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright everybody, my first tip that I want to give you about staying in Taupo is that the town of Taupo itself is not the best place to do the Tongariro Crossing. A lot of people have the Tongariro Crossing on their bucket list in New Zealand, and a lot of people actually plan to do it from Taupo. Taupo is actually located quite far away from National Park, which is the closest little township from the Tongariro Crossing. So some of the best spots to start the crossing is actually either National Park, or if you want to be more on the main street, you can drive 45 minutes south of Taupo and head to the town of Turangi. Those two towns are the best place to base yourself if wanting to do the Tongariro Crossing, not the town of Taupo. Moving on to our next tip is that most of the best things to do in Lake Taupo are actually free. There is a lot of free things to do along the waterfront of Lake Taupo. There is plenty of hikes. There's even some really cheap things to do in the Taupo area, such as the Crater of the Moon, which is a geothermal park, which is also very cheap. You can also climb Mount Tohara, which is a small mount nearby the town of Taupo that will give you 360 degrees view to the whole surrounding, including the lake and the volcanoes of the Tongariro National Parks in the background, and that is free to do. Now for my next tip, thinking of free things to do in Taupo, my two favorite things to do in Taupo are actually free. And the first one is checking out Huka Falls. It is actually the most visited natural attraction in the country. I think it has one of those titles, and it's a fantastically huge waterfall, and the walk there is literally minutes, so easy to access, and the waterfall itself is absolutely amazing to look at, so make sure to check that out. My second favorite thing to do in Taupo, which is free, is to head to Spa Park. Just on the side of the Waikato River, there is a geothermal hot pools right here, which is completely free. It's all natural, and you may hot springs, sorry, and you may want to check it out. It definitely is awesome. The ice cream stand there is not free, but you know, you can afford an ice cream once the activity is already free, right? All right. Next up, and still sticking with budget, one of the tips that I want to give you about Taupo is that if you're considering doing a skydive in New Zealand, skydiving on Lake Taupo is actually one of the cheapest skydive in the country and offers breathtaking views. You will be able to see New Zealand's largest lake below you, but you're also going to be able to see all the volcanoes of the Tongariro National Park in the background. It's a fantastic place for a skydive and one of the cheapest in New Zealand. Next up for Taupo, check out the McDonald's. Yes, that's true. McDonald's is an icon all around the world for sure, but in Taupo there is an actual plane in the McDonald's. Not in the McDonald's. The McDonald's itself is a plane, so you can get inside an old plane. It's fun. It's just a cheesy thing to do. So just make sure you check out the Macca's. By the way, that's how they call McDonald's here in New Zealand. Alright, next up, if you are wanting to try your hand at fishing in New Zealand, especially fishing rainbow trout in New Zealand, well, Lake Taupo is one of the easiest places to fish. And I'm saying that because, well, I successfully caught a fish here, and I'm usually a pretty terrible fisherman. But jokes aside, the fish are plentiful in Lake Taupo, and the fishing charters there are notorious for delivering big time. So if you are into fishing or want to try fishing, Lake Taupo may be one of the best place for you in New Zealand. And lastly, my last tip for staying in Taupo is that, well, there is very limited rainy day activities around the Lake Taupo area. So if you're stuck there and the weather is really bad, well, you may need to consider either going elsewhere. You can go to nearby Rotorua or go south to the town of Turangi that I already mentioned, because one of the only activity to do in Taupo when it's raining is the hot pools. So you only have limited options if the weather is not playing ball. Alright, so that's everything for me today. There is much more information for you on nzpocketguide.com, so you may want to check it out. And the whole team is joining me in wishing you the best time ever in New Zealand.